Hey, what's up everyone? This is Silver Slayer. Thank you for tuning into this video. Gold and silver have been a means of trade and exchange of value for over 6,000 years since the beginning of man, and since then it has been manipulated to extreme degrees. We've seen the earliest signs in biblical history or Egyptian times when it was 2.5 parts silver equals 1 part gold, making silver undervalued compared to gold. And over time it has drastically been screwed or manipulated, controlled. And nowadays we see the gold to silver ratio at 85 to 1 when historically it was only around 16 to 1. It was FDR in the 30s changed the gold to silver ratio from 16 to 1 to 75 to 1. That's a very drastic and extreme case of silver manipulation, but this is happening. Not only is it spoofing, but it's causes like that as well. So we're going to be discussing everything that goes into price manipulation, if gold and silver is in a bubble, and what this entails for the future. So before we start, make sure to smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe if you're new, because I do post daily videos. But anyways, let's jump into it. So the more recent cases we've seen of silver price manipulation is the spoofing acts of JP Morgan, the Dutch Bank, and Merrill Lynch. Spoofing is placing false buy orders on these exchanges, making silver seem like it's being bought up by the millions of dollars, and it tricks people, it sways people into thinking that it's going to go higher, so they start buying itself. So what happens is before the order goes through, their employees will cancel the order. So it's a false flag. It's basically manipulating the other traders or investors into thinking it's at a price that it really isn't. And 3 of their employees actually did get arrested for this over the past year, and it's a punishable crime now. The law enforcement is actually trying to crack down on this more than ever, which is very, very good, because people are trying to justify it, saying, well, what about real estate? You have to spoof in real estate, but it's a completely different, that cannot even relate to any degree. It's a completely different type of situation, a completely different market. But with that said, this shows that silver is being manipulated, even from the higher ups. I mean, JP Morgan owns a lot of, a lot of this, a lot of the companies even ran that are on these exchanges. So since we know that people are doing it, we also have to assume that a lot of it is going unsolved, or people that are getting away with it. And since that's being said, to what degree is silver being manipulated? Because when I think of silver's price rising, I think of its natural price. What would silver's natural price be if it was not being manipulated, if it was not being kept in a bubble? Well, what we can do is do some division. Now, if the gold to silver ratio was 16 to 1, and gold was at $1,500, that means silver would be $90 right now, because 1,500 divided by 16 is 90. Now, when in the 30s the gold to silver ratio was 16 to 1, FDR changed it literally overnight, from not 30 to 40 to 1. No, he changed the gold to silver ratio from 16 to 1 to 75 to 1. That is an extremely drastic way to control or manipulate a market. And when he did that, silver was at a very, very, very undervalued standpoint, and it did not recover since. We've seen the ratio simmer down or correct down somewhat, but it always goes back up. And right now we've seen the ratio at 85 to 1. Earlier this year it was at 95 to 1. So we know that spoofing is going on. We know that it's a punishable crime. We know it's going on. But when will silver's price naturally start to rise? There's also another form of manipulation that's coming into play. And JP Morgan also took advantage of this. It's the speculative property that gold and silver are starting to catch along to. More than ever are we seeing silver or silver markets, or even gold markets, precious metals in general, fall into the speculation category. Once upon a time, gold and silver had intrinsic value, so regardless of what someone says, or a rumor or a myth or a lie that was spread, regardless of that, silver would hold its value because it has real use in the everyday world. But nowadays, in the year 2020, and this is actually starting, I've been seeing it pick up on this over the last couple years, is emotional attachment to these markets is becoming heavier and heavier, and it's making people think more irrationally, and in return causing them to invest more irrationally, quicker, more impulse buying, more panic selling. And this is causing silver to be more speculative, meaning that it's based more off of assumptions rather than real statistics. And this is going to really hurt silver in the long run. It could be a way to make a quick buck, but in the long thing, I think it's going to bite us in the butt. So I do not like that silver is more speculative. Yes, you can make a pretty penny very fast, but I definitely think the consequences are going to outweigh, the favored or the quick buck that you could make. Now, it's interesting that JP Morgan, and I think it was the Dutch bank, they got caught with millions of dollars in misprinted gold bars that were going to be sold on the black market. So all of these things, these are real things. You can actually see the arrest records of their employees, the names of their employees. JP Morgan, they got caught doing this. This isn't some conspiracy theory. This isn't some crazy, illusion or anything like that. This is really going on. And it's going on still till today. And it's always going to go on. So knowing that, do you think that silver will ever be able to naturally rise on its own? Or since they are starting to crack down more and more, do you think that this is going to be contained more and it's going to allow silver's price to rise more? Because right now we know with the gold to silver ratio at 85-1, we know that silver has a lot of catching up to do. That gold either has to depreciate or silver has to appreciate. And more than likely, it's going to be silver appreciating. It's extremely undervalued. That's why most of us invest into silver and not gold, right? Because silver makes more sense. It's a ticking time bomb. It's undervalued and its value has to catch up sooner or later. So with that said, when is silver's price going to naturally rise? I keep repeating that question because I'm really curious on what you guys think about this. It's a huge question. It is the most important question if you're thinking of silver. Silver can't rise without this question being answered. And when it does happen, when it's stopped being contained from the higher ups, that's when we're going to start seeing the real shine in it, the real potential that it has. Not only just industrial demand, not only just, the gold to silver ratio, not only just its universal properties or the most highly conductive metal for thermal conductivity, not only all that stuff, but when is the shadiness behind the markets going to stop? Or when will these people at least get caught to some degree? That's really when we're going to see silver's price shine, and that's when I feel most investors are going to be capitalizing or taking profits. But I am curious what you guys think. I think the Federal Reserve, which is separate from the government, a lot of people think the Federal Reserve is the government or the feds, but it's not. It's separate. I think they're in on it, and I think central banks are in on it. It's interesting how central banks own such a large amount of gold and silver, even though it's not legal tender anymore, even though it's not fiat currency. Why do they own or hoard so much gold and silver? It's almost like they know something that they don't want the normal people to know. They don't want, look at it like this. Why would the Federal Reserve, or even our government want us to stack gold and silver if it's not fiat currency? They don't. Because if you're in debt, or if you owe the government or the system money, then you are enslaved to them. They have power over you. They can control you. And that's why they're going to push stocks and things that are pegged to fiat currency. And that's why I say be careful with stocks, because you're investing into something that's still pegged to a collapsing dollar. The dollar's collapsing. It's lost 98% of its purchasing power due to hyperinflation, and it's not going to be solved. The only alternative, and I use the word alternative very specifically because there is no solution, there's only an alternative, and that is precious metals. But anyways, I'm going to wrap this video up here. Hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure to smash the like button. Check out my video I posted earlier today. I know you guys will like that as well. I'm talking about if silver prices are about to be rising or crashing, and why. Giving some context behind where prices are headed. I wanted to make kind of two separate videos today. One more about the manipulation of the pricing, and also where I think prices are headed in the near future. So anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was Silver Slayer. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.